بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين الذي كان نبيا وآدم بين الماء والطين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفريقين من عرب ومن عجم، ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن علي وعن عثمان ذي الكرم. يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم. صلى الله على النبي الأمي وآله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة وسلاما عليك يا رسول الله. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're watching Your Questions Answered regarding fasting. And inshallah ta'ala, today I will be answering questions in relation to those questions which are frequently asked to the ulama regarding fasting. Now, fasting, it is one of the pillars of Islam. It is fard, it is mandatory upon every Muslim who has reached the age of puberty to fast in the month of Ramadan. And it is important that we have a niyyah. We establish our intention, meaning we do the niyyah for the fast. This can be done anytime after ghurub aftar, meaning after sunset. For example, to do the intention for tomorrow's fast, you are able to make that intention, do the niyyah, that you are fasting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan to comply with the command of Allah to worship Him. So it's abstaining from food, water, and from halal relationship between the hours of pre-dawn to sunset with the intention of worshipping Allah. So that intention can be done anytime after sunset for the next day. So after sunset, you can make the intention for tomorrow's fast. That intention, niyyah, has to be made for each individual fast. You cannot make a single intention for the entire month of Ramadan. So you will make the intention for each individual day. Even waking up for suhoor, to eat at the time of suhoor, sahri, that itself is sufficient for will suffice for your intention. Or you can do the intention at the time, anytime before Dahwa Kubra, before the Zawal time. So before tomorrow's Zawal time, the intention to fast has to be made. That's the latest. So preferably it should be done earlier. Now, questions which are asked frequently, I will be covering program, inshallah. So one of those questions is that someone who intentionally breaks a fast in the month of Ramadan, then what is the kafara for that? The kafara, meaning the penalty that that person has to observe, is that whoever has broken a fast intentionally without any valid reason, okay, now that person is required to fast 60 consecutive fasts. 60 fasts in a row after the month of Ramadan has gone. Anytime after that, he is required to fast 60 fasts in a row, 60 consecutive fasts, as well as ask Allah for forgiveness for deliberately, intentionally breaking a fast, without a valid reason, without a shari udhr, without a legal excuse, and to also do qada. He has to do kazaa of the fast that he has missed, which bring the total number to 61 fasts then. Okay. Now, if a person has done many of these, meaning he has repeatedly missed fasts in the month of Ramadan, broken fasts. For missing a fast without a valid reason, undoubtedly he has done a kabira guna, the person who does that, and he is required to do kazaa of that fast. But breaking a fast intentionally without a valid reason, and if you've done that on multiple occasions in one Ramadan, then one kafara of 60 fasts, consecutive fasts, plus the kazaa of the roza that you missed is required. And if you broke more, then you would be required to do kazaa of the one that you did, in addition to the 60 consecutive fasts. But one set of 60 consecutive fasts will be sufficient kafara for many fasts that you may have broken in the month of Ramadan, which of course is a sin itself. But if you have broken fasts intentionally of previous months of Ramadan, meaning a previous Ramadan, and one from a previous Ramadan which was before that. So the number of Ramadans in which you in which you broke your fast, in which you intentionally broke fasts, then you would have to observe 60 consecutive fasts for each month of Ramadan, wherein you broke your fast intentionally without valid reasons. I hope that has been cleared. A frequently asked question is regarding the injection, especially at this time of, in the current time that we are living in, that many of the Muslim brothers and sisters, especially the elders, are required to take their COVID-19 vaccinations. So these vaccinations will not nullify the fast, although some scholars differ. But if you are following a mufti who has said that you do not need to, the fast does not break, and you are able to take your injection because it does not enter into the stomach. The liquid does not enter into the stomach, nor does it go down your throat. So it enters into the bloodstream or into the muscle. So this will not invalidate the fast. You are allowed to take injections, take such injections, even whilst you are in the halat, in the state of fasting. As far as eye drops and nose drops are concerned, then because recent research has established that there is a passage from the nose and from the eye which causes the liquid to reach the throat. So because the liquid that is being put into the nose or eye has a passage which reaches the throat, and anything that reaches the throat, whether it is food or medicine, then this will invalidate the fast. So yeah, you are not allowed to take eye drops and nose drops whilst you are in the state of your fast. You should take those eye drops or nose drops after you have broken your fast, meaning after iftar. As far as eardrops are concerned, then they are allowed, because the latest research suggests that there is no passage unless there is a puncture. There is normally no passage from the ear that directly connects it to the throat. So eardrops are allowed whilst you are in the state of fasting. As far as menstruating, sisters often ask this question, who are menstruating or in the halat of hayd, that whilst they are having their periods, if they have become clean and free from their menstruation has ended prior to suhoor, then they are able to fast. Then they are able to fast. But if it continues and it lingers over after suhoor, so that the fast has now started, then no, they will not be required to fast on that day. But if during the day they became clean, they became pure, then they are required to observe distancing themselves from food and water, meaning they will remain in, they will need to resemble a person who is fasting, meaning abstain from food and water, even though they are not fasting, because for the ihtiram, to venerate and demonstrate reverence to the month of Ramadan, they would be required, as would a musafir who becomes a muqim, a person who was previously a kafir. If he became Muslim and it was too late for him to establish his niyyah, he would be required to observe the state of a person who is fasting, meaning he would abstain from food and water for the rest of the day, although that would not count as a fast, and he would do kazaa of such a fast. Likewise, another question which is often asked is, does swallowing the saliva, we have saliva in our mouth all the time, and throughout the day, multiple times, we are swallowing our saliva. So no, swallowing the saliva does not break the fast. However, if somebody took out the saliva, took it out and placed it in the palm of their hand, and then they licked that. I don't understand why somebody would do that, but just in case they did something as silly and as absurd as that, as you have all sorts of people and children who can end up doing such silly things. So if they did that, then this would invalidate the fast. Vomiting, which happens by itself naturally, will not break the fast. And we sometimes hear that non-Muslims observe the fast and they want to experience what it's like for Muslims to fast. So they also want to fast, and they end up fasting just to have that and gain that experience. So is their fast valid? No, the answer is that it is not valid. Why? This is because fasting has been prescribed and commanded, obligated to Muslims only. So they are not mukallaf to fast, meaning what they need to be doing, they are mukallaf to become mu'min, to first accept Islam. Once they have accepted Islam, then whatever worship they will observe will be acceptable, inshallah, in the court of Allah. But for non-Muslim fasts, then there may be some scientific benefits, as fasting does have scientific benefits, health benefits. They will benefit with those. But as far as reward or ajr in the court of Allah, in the law is concerned, they will not qualify for any reward whatsoever. Because fasting, first and foremost, one needs to be a mu'min, a believer, a Muslim. Likewise, since the question has been, the point is already being discussed, that when the kuffar die, whether it is Prince Philip or whether it is Diego Maradona, these celebrities, we see that people they are attached to these celebrities, and they look at the good actions that they may have done during their life, like donating to poor people, building hospitals or other things, or even helping Muslims, etc. However, it is impermissible, haram, and some fuqaha have even stated that it is kufr to do dua of maghfirah, to ask for their forgiveness, to supplicate to Allah for their forgiveness. In fact, we should not even be writing rest in peace. We see these posts all over the social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, that person was a good person, rest in peace, RIP is written. This is haram at the very least. And to do dua maghfirah, to supplicate for their forgiveness, is kufr. So we should, there's too much jahalat, ignorance on the social media, which demonstrates the level of understanding of Islamic jurisprudence our Muslims have, unfortunately. We need to educate ourselves with essential knowledge of Islam. We should all be educated when it comes to the ruling regarding the fiqh, the jurisprudence regarding fasting, regarding zakat. Many people will be paying zakat. You need to know what the rules are about zakat, how much is fard, when does it become fard, who are we supposed to give it to, etc. These are rulings that you need to learn once you have reached the age of puberty, and you have sufficient money equivalent to $52.50 of silver. Even if you have money equal to that, then you are required to pay 2.5% on the value of that. Likewise on gold, on silver, on property which has been bought to sell, and all your business, assets, etc. So you need to educate yourselves in terms of this, so that you know that you are fulfilling the commands which Allah Azza wa Jal has instructed to us to fulfill. So we are complying with them, and we are not violating the Sharia. And ignorance is not a valid reason to not pay zakat or not to fast correctly. So in terms of reciting the dua, we get this question that I have recited the dua to close my fast. An individual says that I have recited the dua now, and you're reciting the dua much earlier than the end of suhoor time. So let's say the end of the suhoor is 2:45, for argument's sake, a.m. Then you did your dua that I am making by intention, and you do the dua that I am fasting for in the month of Ramadan for the sake of Allah, and I'm doing tomorrow's fast. So you do your intention. And the question is that, are you allowed to eat after you've done your intention or after you have said the dua? The answer is that yes, you are allowed to eat, because the Quranic verse says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ. Okay, so you are able to, even though you prayed the dua, even though you made the intention, you are able to eat even after that, all the way until the Islamic law has stipulated, which means up until the suhoor ends. So a brother has asked a question that why is there a gap between the Sahri time and the Fajr time? So when the Namaz Fajr, the Salatul Fajr begins, that is the closure of your suhoor, of your Sahri. You cannot eat from that point onwards. Let's say Salatul Fajr starts at 2:45 a.m. and right until 2:44 you are able to eat on 59 seconds. But then obviously you need to clean your mouth out. You should not have any traces of food left in your mouth, especially if you've got food which accumulates to the size of a chickpea. If that remained in your mouth, you swallowed it after the time of closure of Sahri, this would invalidate your fast. Okay, so the 5 minutes that you have in between, that's mentioned on the timetables, this is for this is a ihtiyat, for precaution, so that in those 5 minutes you can wash your mouth out, rinse your mouth out, remove, do khilal, floss your teeth so that there's no bits of food left in between your teeth. So that is a precautionary measure that those people who have designed the timetable have taken. Hope that has answered your question. So regarding paying fidya for fasts which have been missed due to menstruation or childbirth. So when a woman cannot fast because of haid, because of the monthly periods, or because of the blood which emanates after childbirth, then she would not pay the fidya for that, but she is required to do kazaa. It is fard upon her. It is mandatory upon that individual, that sister or mother or daughter, that she has to do qada. She has to compensate those fasts. She has to do compensation of those fasts after the month of Ramadan, any time before the next Ramadan, and she should do it as soon as possible. The earlier, the better. And as we should not delay matters of virtue. Okay, those things which are neki mein der nahi honi chahiye. So fidya will not compensate fast that you have missed on account of your pregnancy or menstruation or periods or blood which comes after childbirth. No, you've got to do kazaa of those fasts. If a non-Muslim doctor advises an individual to not fast, are you allowed to act on that advice? The answer is no. You're only allowed to follow the advice of a Muslim practicing doctor, a doctor who is practicing, who does not violate the Sharia, meaning even zahiran, outwardly he should have one full fist beard. Then his advice will be credible and taken as valid advice, and in such case you are allowed to follow that individual's advice, that doctor's advice, who is a salih practicing Muslim doctor, if he says that you don't have to fast. Now another question is, which is commonly asked, is that due to health reasons, people claim that because the fasts are very long, sometimes we see in 1 or 2 years ago, we had those fasts where the Sahri, for those people who are following the 18 degrees timing, was that they would close their fast at about 1:06, and it would break. The iftar would take place at about 10 to 10, so almost 20 hours and 45 minutes. Now, those were very long fasts. Now, just because they are long fasts, you are not exempted from fasting. And if only that person has exemption, in the books of fiqh, it is mentioned, someone known as a Shaykh Fani, a very old senile person who has been advised by the doctor, by a Muslim practicing doctor, that he is unable to fast due to very old age. Okay, and weakness which has come about because of old age, then that individual is he will give one sadaqah fitr, or provide 2 meals to a poor person per fast. Per fast. So a person who, but even that person or any person who is very ill and who cannot fast due to the fast being very long in the summer months, if that individual is able to fast in the winter months when the fast is a lot smaller, then it is compulsory for that individual to fast in the winter to compensate those fasts which he was unable to complete in the summer when those fasts were very long due to having old age or due to illness. If someone who is a Shaykh Fani, or who later recovers from his illness, only that person is able to give fidya every year for the fast, who's become a very old person because of his old age and illness. He's unable to fast, and the doctor has advised him not to fast. Otherwise, it can lead to him becoming more ill or even death. Then he's able to give sadaqah fitr, or food to a miskin, a poor person, 2 meals per fast. But if Allah blessed him with good health later, then all those sadaqah fitr or the fidya that he has given would become a nafli form of worship for him, a nafli, an optional virtue, and he would be required to do kazaa, to compensate all those fasts when Allah has blessed him with good health, even if it means doing those fasts when the days are shorter. That would also equally apply to a person who cannot fast due to having to take medicine because of the long fast. And if he's able to fast in those smaller days, he would be required to fast in the smaller days. It would be compulsory on him to do that. But common people cannot do that. It must be a practicing Muslim doctor who has given such advice to an ill person. And if it's then it's genuine advice that he would genuinely become more ill, or his health would deteriorate. One or two brothers have asked questions online. So I would prefer that you ask questions in relation to the topic, which is about fasting. So this question about the masjid. Now, when the masjid is built, it depends what the intention was by those people when they are building the masjid, when they are constructing the masjid. If they already have made an intention that part of the building will be given on rent so that it can generate an income which would cover the expenses of running the masjid, and that is sufficient, that is valid. But no, if it has been purposely built solely for the worship of Allah, each and every part of it, then it is impermissible to give it out on rent and for other things. So other reasons, such as you work and you're unable to fast, these would not be reasons which are valid reasons, reasons according to the legal rulings of the Sharia. You are required to fast, and it is an act of cowardice to not fast because you need to work and earn an income. Likewise, people they omit their salah. They do not pray and offer their salah 5 times a day because they say we need to earn a living, and this would not be a valid excuse in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just to miss a single salah for such reasons that you need to earn a living, a person's name is written on the door of hell through which he will be required to enter for missing a single salah. So people today, they need to sort out their priorities. They want to, they will leave their salah, they will leave acts of worship to simply earn a living. Whereas in the Quran Majid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we are your provider, we are your sustainer. And Allah says, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ, command your family to establish the salah, bis salati, wastabir alayha, and be firm upon it yourself, the nearest mafhum of this ayat. And la nas'aluka rizqa, we will not question you about rizq. Nahnu narzuquk, we provide you with the sustenance. So we are required to fast. And you should, if it means leaving your work temporarily for a few weeks, taking leave so that you can fast in the month of Ramadan, it's compulsory for you to do that. You leave your work for salah. We do not leave acts of worship like salah, zakat, hajj, and fasting just to earn a living. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so to come to the final question of today's program. Well, I have one or two questions. That does applying a medicine or medicinal bandage on a wound nullify the fast? So if you apply medicine on a wound or on a cut or on an injury or even a bandage which has medicine, that will not nullify your fast. That is permissible. And if someone hasn't completed their kazaa fasts of the previous year and the next Ramadan has arrived, what should they do? So if the month of Ramadan has arrived, you cannot do intention, you cannot do the niyyah of doing kazaa of the previous fast that you had not observed in the previous Ramadan. You would be fasting, your fast that you would do would count and would be fasts of this Ramadan. So the fasts on the previous Ramadan, which you are unable to do, they have to be performed, they have to be observed and completed, preferably before this Ramadan. You should try your best to complete them. But if this Ramadan arrived and you started to do intention of doing kazaa of the previous Ramadan, that intention would be invalid and your fast would count as fasts of this Ramadan. Okay? You would have to do the kazaa, the compensation of those previous fasts after this month of Ramadan. Likewise, if you've got fasts, normally we have people who have not been fasting from since the age of puberty. So then they are required to observe and to compensate all those fasts that they have missed. Likewise, some sisters due to pregnancy or other reasons like nifas, the blood of nifas, they are required to fast, and they have many fasts which have accumulated over the time, and they are required to do compensation of those fasts by doing kazaa. You cannot give fidya for those fasts. Okay. And regarding using an inhaler, whilst you are in the state of fasting, you're not allowed to use an inhaler. Okay, because that contains things which will provide you with which will enter into your body, which will go down your throat, etc. And that you are unable to take that whilst you're in the state of fasting. Yeah, even if you are suffering from asthma, that would invalidate the fast unless he's able to take that before the fast or after the fast. And if he had to break it because of having problems or symptoms and he's feeling ill, then he would need to do kazaa of that fast. Okay. Likewise, doing ghibat, backbiting, slandering, having indecent or immoral or offensive or shameless conversations, this will weaken the fast. Spiritually, the fast will be weakened, but it will not break the fast in its entirety, but the reward of the fast is reduced. We should all try to fast in such a way that each and every part of our body observes the fast. So we are not just simply abstaining from food and water, but of eyes of fasting, that we do not look towards anything which is forbidden for us to look at. We do not listen to anything which is forbidden for us to listen to, such as ghibat, backbiting, listening to bohtan, listening to shameless and needless conversations. And we should not use our tongue. Our tongue should be observing the fast in the sense that we only speak good or we remain silent. Or we recite the Quran al-Majid, we recite Na'te Mustafa, or we engage and preoccupy our tongues in the tasbih and tahleel and taqdees and tahmeed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning we say subhanallah, we say alhamdulillah, we say la ilaha illallah, we say Allahu Akbar, we recite Durood Sharif sallallahu ala Muhammad, and we listen to speeches by scholars, not by deviants. And likewise, if a deviant a person from a deviant sect is advising you not to fast, then even that advice is not valid. It has to be from a Sahihul Aqidah, a mu'min, salih mu'min doctor who is from the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, who is practicing and who observes the Sharia. So we should ensure that each and every part of our body is observing the fast, our hands are observing the fast, our feet, all our limbs. This is the fast of the khawas. And then we have the fast of the akhassul khawas, the most special devotees of Allah. They fast in such a way that they do not focus on anything besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're totally transfixed and their full concentration and energy is focused in pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is all they think of whilst they are in the state of fasting. Yeah, so as I mentioned about the fidya, this is only payable if one cannot fast due to health reasons, and this is normally associated with a person who is known as Shaykh Fani, meaning a very old person who, due to old age, the doctor has advised, a Muslim practicing Sahihul Aqidah doctor has advised that if he fasts, then it will lead to his health becoming deteriorated, or it can even lead to death. It is normally connected with such people. And, but if a person has such an illness that he is unable to, he will never recover, and then that person is also able to give a fidya. But like I said, the advice must be given from a doctor that I just mentioned. And if that Shaykh Fani, that very old person, or a person who was previously very ill, then recovers from that illness, then what all the fidyas that he has given, they will be taken as an act of nafli worship, an optional worship on the part of that Muslim, so it does not go to waste, and he would be required to do kazaa of those fasts that he has missed if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has once again blessed him with good health. If I've said anything which is incorrect, I seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever good I've said, it is from Allah Azza wa Jal. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us the ability to learn the rulings of the Sharia and to observe them in our lives, and keep us firm upon the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and may accept the fasts and all the worship done by the Muslims in the month of Ramadan and even after Ramadan, and may we remain attached to worshipping him, to seeking his pleasure and the pleasure of his beloved Habib sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.